Okay. So I think we're recording. Let's hope. And let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yep, I can.
Okay, great. Well, Leslie, thank you so much for coming today. I'm Jen. I work at U13 on the TLC team, and I love all things literacy. So you came to the right spot. So the focus of our time today will be exploring planning for ELA instruction, whether it's a live class or remote learning. We're going to look at Catlin Tucker. I don't know, Leslie, do you know about Dr. Tucker? She has a lesson design that we'll take a look at for virtual learning, and then consider applying that with an ELA lesson. She's awesome. You'll want to look her up. And I'm going to give you some resources of hers in a minute. So her model is an instructional model that considers what she calls the 5 E's. And there is engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. So in the engage stage is when you would brainstorm or access your students' prior knowledge about a topic, like we were talking about before, or it may be on a particular reading element, a genre, text structure, right? What do they know? And the explore is where, you would give them research on that particular topic and kind of inform them more. You may, at your level, have the students actually doing the research and then presenting and discussing it with each other. Explain would be your direct instruction, whether you're doing Zoom or and even in an asynchronous way where you may record yourself doing a lesson, or maybe even having them go to different sites that allow you to insert some formative assessment within the context of the site. And I'll show you that in a little bit too. And then elaborate. And this plan, that's a time for the kids to really apply that learning to the real world, make connections with what they've learned to new opportunities, and then evaluate is a time for them to reflect on their learning, and then also a time for you to assess summatively how it went. So let me show you. Before we do that, let me get out of this. And I want to show you her plan. And I'm going to add this link to the chat. So proud of myself. There you go. So that you can get to her design. So this is her actual plan. It's kind of context neutral, right? It doesn't say whether this is for ELA, math, whatever topic. But the model that I'm going to show you today, obviously, is for a high school ELA lesson. But I wanted you to be able to see where this came from. And you can obviously make a copy for yourself. And you'll see the different elements, lesson elements along the side. And then her explanation of what it looks like, and then also some tools that she suggests that you could use for that particular part in the instructional model. And another point I wanted to make, which she talks about, is that, this isn't necessarily like one block schedule lesson, right? It could be that you're using these elements across a couple of weeks. For a unit, you can decide how you want to chunk the instructional model. I think that's important. And Leslie, you didn't tell me, what is the model for your instruction? Like, are the kids doing hybrid or?
Yeah, so we are hybrid A/B block. So I'll see my kids physically 1 day a week in the classroom, and then Wednesdays all virtual on a modified schedule. Okay. So, but then some kids can go 5-day flex. So they have the opportunity to be on flex the whole time. Okay. The goal is, of course, to just try to keep and retain as many of our kids as possible. So we're trying to provide them all the options. So that's where we're at.
Okay, great. So that helps me out a little bit. So you will be, having to provide basically both type of instruction, whether it's in class, in person, or remote. So I guess this was a good a session for you to come to.
Yes, for sure. I need it.
So you don't have to type this in the chat, but in the past, like with technology, what types of tools have you used?
So when I would open for a new unit, depending on the topic, I usually always, because I teach American literature primarily, and so I always go over the history, because you really have to understand what's happening in the country to understand that the literature is reactive.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so I'll use like Discovery Education to pull up like videos about the time period, or we can do online like Padlet type things. But I've steered away from relying too much on technology because it's not always been reliable. So in that way, I haven't developed as much as I've wanted to technologically because I've feared not having what I need. Now it's a necessity and I will have what I need. So
that's awesome. And I totally hear you on that, right? Like, you don't want to base a lesson on some tech tool if the kids, when they go to use it, it's going to crash. Yeah. So that is pretty important. So I've laid out a few ideas for the engage stage here. So like you mentioned, an ELA message board could be a spot where you could ask that activating question, right, before you do a particular lesson. And the story that I have set for the kids to read in this lesson is The Interlopers. So I asked on my message board for Engage, would it be easier to get into an argument with a stranger or a close friend? Why do you feel this way, right? And then I want the kids to, brainstorm that out, and I put that on the message board. So is a Padlet the only place that you could do this? No, right? We could have kids have a discussion in Google Classroom. They have a question feature, and I don't know, what learning management system do you guys use?
We're not primarily Schoology.
Okay.
We're allowed to use Google Classroom. I have always used Google Classroom, but this year I'm not going to because I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to teach them how to use it. And because they know how to use Schoology, I'm just going to stick with it, even though I like Google Classroom better.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah, and I didn't know about this Google Classroom question feature, but Catlin talked about that a little bit. But then you could also do the same thing, right? We could do a message board on Schoology where you're asking for a group discussion about a particular topic and having kids write and respond to one another. Or also, let me go back. Let me exit out. Have you heard of Mentimeter?
Yeah, that was brought up in something recent, that I think an in-service that I went to, the Mentimeter.
Okay, so Mentimeter is another way that you could pose a question. It's really quite simple as far as like the back end use for you. Literally all I did was type in my question. Would it be easier to get into an argument, yada, yada. And then you can set it so that it goes with speech bubbles, right? So that the kids' answers come out like that, or they come in a stream one-to-one, or they go in a grid view. It's pretty similar in a sense with this questioning technique here, like Padlet. And they have different themes as well. So you could, pick a different theme pretty easily. So that's Mentimeter. And then you can also get, the information, as soon as the kids answer, you're going to see it populate there on the screen, and you can have this ready to go.
So in that way, I could have this up while my flex students at home or my in-person students who are at home that mod day can be participating as well as the ones in front of me.
Yes, and the info would be broadcast to both groups.
Great. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Okay, we'll go back. All right, so in the explore stage, right, that's where we're having them learn about the particular topic that you have. In this case, I had them set to watch, I guess, let me see if I can. So this is just a YouTube, right, on situational irony, right? So we would have them watch the video on situational irony, and then maybe have them link out to a Padlet again. Think about an example of situational irony that you've read about in books or experienced in your life. Add your example to the virtual back channel below. And I used The Wizard of Oz for situational irony, and used a picture there. So then the kids could do the same thing, right? They could add their examples, and this is a similar thing. Yes, this would show up both for your virtual kids and for your in-class kids, same way. Another idea that I got, oh, geez, that was bad, that I got from Catlin was even just to do just use a Google Doc, right? And assign different groups of kids a different spot on the slides to either answer questions or explore the particular topic. So like you were saying, you know, sometimes you have them do like historical, you give them historical background, or you could have the kids do that. And I wanted to see if I had, doesn't look like it's handy. But they could do that on like a Google Doc. You could do that a couple of ways, right? You could have the same questions that you want them to research, and have different kids assigned to different slides and have them, you know, their names on the slides, and then have it repeating so that they can see the research from the other groups as well as their own. Or you could give them all separate slides and then have them present later. But that's just another way to do the explore phase, right? Because you're working with high school, you don't always have to feed them everything, I guess is the point here. Another idea was to have them just read about a rivalry, and here I chose Newsela, which have you heard of that as well, Leslie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty user-friendly. You can, you know, create classes. You can, and then get the data back, right, through Excel, which is pretty nice. It's also nice that you can do leveled tiers with the kids for their ability.
Now, is yours the paid version versus the free version?
No, I think that this is free.
Okay.
I don't believe I have a paid version of Newsela.
Yeah, because we looked into it, but
okay.
Yeah, but as long as, so like I hate when I learn new tools and then I find out that there's some massive cost and I'm like, cool, I can't have this. I love it and I want it, but I can't have it. So yeah, I know that there's a lot of stuff on even the free version.
I think so. I agree with you. You'll have to look into that, but I hear you. There's another one that I learned about. Now, this one is not quite as like snazzy as Newsela, but it's called Smithsonian Teen Tribune. I've never heard of it before, but in doing research for this presentation, I learned about it. And it's very similar to Newsela. Like you can assign a different Lexile level, you know, right here. And you can assign, it looks like through Google Classroom, and I'm willing to bet you can, you know, link out to it. But there are different topics based on grade levels. And then, like I said, there are different Lexile levels within the same particular article. And yeah, that is definitely free. Let's see what else we have there. I think that's it for the explore stage. So then moving on to explaining, right? So this is the point where you know, if you're able to do your in-class lesson, right, you may still have your presentation slides, and, you know, you're going to explain whatever, you know, situational irony the way you would have traditionally. And you can do that, right? You can use Screencastify. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I have, I've made Screencastify versions of all my notes and then gave what would be my lecture, and then I actually plugged them into Edpuzzle so that I can make sure that anything that would require in like direct instruction is going to be online so that everyone gets it no matter what.
I think that sounds perfect. I would have loved that for my daughter. Yeah, what a great idea to insert it into Edpuzzle. I love that. I do have Edpuzzle down here, so I won't show that to you because it sounds like you know that pretty well. And I agree with you. I love Edpuzzle for allowing you to be able to teach and then get formative feedback from your kids, whether it's in person or virtual, right? Like you can still get that feedback.
Yeah, and the plus is once you make it once, it's made. So it's, you know, I don't have to do it again. So there is some permanence in that idea, and I think that's important too, because it's tedious, it's time consuming, but it's good to know that it's a once and done for each lesson.
I hear you there, right. And anything you guys can do to save time in today's world that you're living through, I think that's probably a win for anybody, right? So I added the story, The Interlopers, here to Actively Learn. How about Actively Learn? Have you seen that also before?
You guys must have taught it to my school district because they just introduced it to us at our trade-off in-service at the beginning of August, and my mind was blown because I was like, no way does this exist, and I didn't know about it.
It is so awesome. I agree with you. It is incredible. So the ability to add your own directions or take the directions that were assigned by the company to a text. So I found like The Interlopers, and I thought of this lesson, you know, outside of Actively Learn, but Actively Learn actually had the text in it. So, you know, I had my objective, which was for the kids to annotate and find specific instances where the author develops suspense while using situational irony, using the interlopers. So, you know, I looked at what Actively Learn had, but then I also thought about my goals and objectives and kind of tailored it for my my lesson, which is great. I mean, it's really awesome the fact that you can actually show them a picture of the Carpathian Mountains, right? So that they can get an idea of what that looks like when they're reading it. You know, and then you can embed, right, your questions and your what you want the kids to really hone in on while reading. I just think it's an incredible program. The fact that they can highlight and then also translate the text is great for our ELs, and even for our other students who need to have the text read to them. They can still analyze, they can still look for these features that we need, right? But then they'll have that for them.
Now, do you know if that's a paid version or free version?
I believe that is part of the free version, but I wouldn't bet my house on it, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and that you can back map to the standards, and you can look at their answers when it comes in, you know, like all of their answers would be over here on the right side. It's just really great for organization as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's one of the most incredible resources that people don't know enough about.
Oh, yeah, I loved it. In fact, well, I did it, I'll do a quick story. I was doing a presentation with a bunch of folks, like a PD presentation, and they were, you know, it was a few years ago. So some of the participants were complaining that I didn't have paper versions of the text. And so I said, well, I'll get you a paper version. So I got the woman a paper version. But as she was reading and as the other people were interacting back and forth, because you can set it so that the questions are here, but you can also set it so that the kids can talk back and forth about their answers with one another and say, yeah, I really like the point you made. You can kind of make it a discussion board. And in the middle of the session, she said, she raised her hand. She's like, this isn't working for me. I'm like, well, what do you mean it's not working for you? She's like, I'm not getting the same experience that they are. And I said, exactly.
Yep.
So I said, you want me to show you how it works? She's like, okay.
And I do think there's certain people and then certain like just brackets of teachers who it's hard to let go of the old ways of doing things and embracing the new.
Yeah,
but
I agree with you.
There's no option right now. So now they are embracing it because they're like, I don't have a choice.
Right? I hear you. And then another activity I had embedded with this was having a thinking organizer for the kids. So I talked a little bit more about situational irony, and then I created an organizer for them. So, you know, the situational irony example from the text, your expected outcome, the actual outcome, and then the effects and the feelings of suspense and mystery that caused. And I wanted to explain why I have this. So this was a key so that students who need it can have the directions read to them. And whenever they see that symbol in my class, they know that that means they could have the directions read out loud to them. And I just made an audio file of myself reading the directions. And you can do that with different plugins as an extension, or again, by using Screencastify. I just think it's important that we have that differentiation for them.
You do Screencastify. Can you do it without video so it's just sound?
No, I don't know. Let me just see what I did use for that one though, because it looks different.
Somebody from my school actually asked me recently how to do audio files because I guess she made it, but then she couldn't get it on Google Drive. And so that's when I looked up and found out that there is an extension on Chrome to use that'll put it directly in your Google Classroom or your Google Drive.
Ooh, that's loud. I think I used my, I just have, I don't know which one it is, but I have, oh, right here. Wait a minute. I think this is
audio voice recorder.
There you go. I'm like, I just used my little icon on my extensions. Yeah, and that'll give you a file that you can insert into an image, right? So you just make a picture of the play pause thing. That's all I did was, you know, did a search for play pause, snipped it, made a picture file. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Me, I like that. I've never thought to do that, but that's so much better for accessibility for all.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, because you could do it on anything. You could plug that in. Okay, let me go back to presenting. Okay, and then, so, and you know about the great qualities of Edpuzzle, that you're able to add a video, whether it's, in this case, I was teaching symbolism and I used a Disney Pixar video. And this video happens to have a ton of symbolism embedded in it. It's quite complex, even though it's a Disney Pixar video. And then I just embedded, you know, the formative assessments along the way. And the cool feature, which I think is new in Edpuzzle, that you can link out. So you can not just add a question, but you could link out to a document. So then I linked out to a Google Doc with an organizer that I also wanted the kids to fill out freely. So I didn't want to have the stops put in myself. I wanted them to continue on with themselves. So it's that kind of like that gradual release, right? I gave them a little bit of, I'm doing it with you. Then I want you to do it with me. And then now I want you to release you for the rest of the ed puzzle to just kind of do it on your own. But I'm going to insert this Google Doc for you to put your answers on.
I did not know that. That is new to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me, yeah, I think I
I
can.
also didn't know, this is fun. So I had made all my notes on videos prior, like on Screencastify's prior to all this, like 3 years ago. And then I have a YouTube page for it. And when I put in my own YouTube videos to do my ed puzzles, I found that people had already taken my videos and turned them into ed puzzles themselves.
No way.
Like, I'm just going to take your ed puzzle because you stole my video, so I'm going to steal your questions.
Oh, that is pretty awesome.
It was cool. I was like, oh, wow.
Someone else is doing my work for me.
That's right.
It's kind of
Somebody
weird
better.
though, right?
Some reciprocation, finally.
That's great. Yeah, so right here where it says note, you could add the text, and then I just linked part of my text, and part of that link is for them to go to this organizer and fill it out. And so the directions are here again, like we said, and this time it is a YouTube video. And then I also included, just as another way, because I'm not sure about access, like what kids have what, you know, and I thought the QR code is just another way for them to get to the directions quickly with their phones or whatever they might be using. And that's the cool thing on Screencastify, that it lets you create a link, an embed code. It will also allow you to do this QR code pretty easily.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's go back. And so then we get to the elaborate stage. And, you know, Callan talks a lot about wanting the kids to, you know, collaborate with one another and talk with one another, which is, you know, could be difficult if we're all virtual, or if some are in person and some are virtual. And another idea here was to do the traditional fishbowl, which we've done in the past in the classroom, right? But to do this virtually. So in this instance, you know, the teacher would split the kids up maybe ahead of time. You have it on a Google Doc, and you have 2 column charts, right? You have group A and group B. And then once, you know, you start, your group A kids might have some discussion questions at your level. The kids may have had to have provided the questions before they got there to the fishbowl. I don't know if you've had done any Socratic seminars. You know, it's kind of like doing a Socratic seminar, but virtually. And so the students in group A will unmute and engage in a discussion back and forth with one another. And then while they're doing that, group B can observe what they're doing and then post observations in the chat window, or even you can have a back channel going on with the group B kids and a shared Google Doc. Or you can also use a Padlet, or even, I would say a Mentimeter might even work for that, but just a way for them to talk about and make points about what the people in the fishbowl are like what they're doing. And then once the timer's off, the teacher would invite group B to unmute themselves and then share with the whole group what they notice and observe by their peers. And then they get flip-flop roles around. And I think you could do that during a Zoom. And you could have like a Zoom group be a B group and an in-person group be an A group, and you could flip-flop, I think, depending on your camera. I think that might be able to work, even if you have like one kid, you know, one group of kids in school and one group virtual. And then reflection. So Callan had a lot of really great ideas for the reflection phase of this lesson sequence that I thought were definitely worth worth speaking about. And I said here, not every student is a fan of Flipgrid. I guess because I experienced as a parent my child getting assigned a lot of Flipgrids for reflections. And she's a middle school teen. So of course, like every time she had to do a Flipgrid, we had to wait for like a 45-minute shower and getting all beautiful before she could show her classmates what she looked like. So I feel like this is my PSA for parents. Like I'm sticking up for the parents of the world. Like, and not to say Flipgrid isn't great. I mean, Flipgrid is awesome. You could use that in many of the different stages here that Catlin talks about. But I just want people to be cognizant that not everybody, like even myself today.
I didn't love it. And it was embedded in a couple of the courses I took. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So I held up like a puppet instead. I'm like, I'm not doing this.
I told my daughter, I'm like, you could just put a sticker on your face. She's like, Mom, no.
How dare you even suggest that, Mom?
Correct. So I brainstormed a few other ideas for teachers. So of course you could have a Padlet again, right? With ending some type of a reflection question about symbolism, right? See how they felt. And then podcasting. I don't know if you've heard of Anchor FM. Anchor FM is a website, and I might be able to, in a few minutes here, we'll stop things and I can show you that too. But Anchor FM is a place where you can go and you can create a podcast. It's so simple. They actually have all the, like the little sound that you would hear at the beginning of a podcast leading into your, little message. And then the middle part of, another sound. I can show you that here in a second. Actually, why don't I just try and show you now? We'll be a little impromptu.
Love it.
Anchor FM. So I haven't used it in a while, but see if I can get to my, I don't want to do, okay. So let's see if I can get to my episodes. I just wanted to, okay, here we go. No. Let's see. Okay, now let's play it. See, I knew I shouldn't try anything impromptu. Well, anyway, let me go back. I should be able to, can I double? No, let me go here. Not there, to a new episode. So what you would do is you start recording. Hello.
Hello.
And you can add, let me see. We don't want that. We want the sounds. This over here, you just slide it over. And then, where are the sounds? Oh, here are the transitions. I want to get to the transitions because they're so cool. They like sound so professional. So then you can just slide it over. So you have that going first, right? And then you have your little hello, whatever your message is. And then you could even add that over. And then you can preview.
So in your mind, is this the students making their own individual one? Is this a group of students making the same one so you have one account? Is this you making them?
Yeah, great questions. I think for me, it would be either, in this case, it's a reflection. So it might be one student reflecting on their learning of this particular topic. But it could be, yes, you could totally use it with like a group of kids to create, like you and I working together and record our voices and then add a sequence that we feel is appropriate. And it could be used in an earlier stage, right? Like it could be used in the elaborate stage and not the reflection stage. It could be used in the explore stage where they're just, here we are from Solanco, sharing out our what we've learned today on X, Y, or Z.
I like it.
Yeah. And then I also have, which I'll make sure I get to you, I'll add like a resource page here, but there are some, I think it's Slides Carnival. They have these, like a slide deck that's all ready to go where kids can embed their podcast into it. So that's pretty cool.
We, during quarantine, my family put on weekly PowerPoints on stupid stuff. So dumb. Like, I did one on like how I think Carol Baskin killed her husband and like really dumb topics. And we did it every Sunday during quarantine, and we used Slides Carnival.
Oh, how fun. I love Slides Carnival. Oh, good. So you know where to go to get that.
Yep. I'm good there.
And I think she did it.
No, I definitely did. I did a whole 45-minute presentation. My poor family.
Does that darn TikTok? I don't know, like the Carol. Have you seen the Carol Baskin TikTok?
Oh yes.
I'm like, Charlotte, you may not do that one again. We know she didn't.
We already know. Skip it.
I also saw, this is, I think, from Catlin as well, an exit ticket.
That looks like a Google form.
Yes, which I can get to you too, Leslie. I'll make sure that I get you a copy of it because it's like she did it and it's there. But she has like each stage, I don't know if each stage of the lesson. So she has engage, reflect, like all of the different E's. And she asks the kids, like, which part of the lesson did you like the best? Like pick which portion of it. And then she has them reflect on their learning and explain what they would change or I would love that as a teacher.
Yeah.
And then I also suggested using Spark Video. Have you heard of Spark Video?
I haven't.
So there's Adobe Spark Page and Spark Video. So Spark Page allows kids to basically do like an embedded web page pretty easily. They can add video, they can add like our Anchor FM, they can add media, like different media. So in other words, we're making the text a little more New York Times-ish now, right?
Yeah.
But you can also do Spark Videos. So Spark Videos, there's an actual, I have, and I'll make sure to get this to you, this a planning template that allows them to brainstorm, from each slide what it is they're going to do, and they can decide, are you going to have one picture, two things, a full screen photo, and then write out the speech that goes along with a particular type of layout that they chose. And so it could be for them to demonstrate how authors use suspense, but they have to apply it to a new text and do it through a Spark Video, right? Yeah. So show a reflection and an application of what you've learned while creating a Spark Video to demonstrate that learning.